In today's latest news, we discuss the big updates around VITOR ROQUE. We discuss Thomas Tuchel and a potential Chelsea raid with names such as Mateo Kovacic, Mason Mount and Anthony Barry being linked with moves to Bayern Munich. And before we end things, we talk the big Kai Havertz interview that released today that I found very honest and very insightful, and I thought it was worth discussing and talking about in today's video. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's vid. Hit that like button. Let's get 1500 likes, and of course share your opinions below in the comments too. Now before we get into things, I have one big announcement to get out of the way first. Now let's start with things. Now let's break down the big updates around VITOR ROQUE. Now for you guys that have been watching this channel for a while, you know that this is the type of profile of forward I want to see here. I've said before that in my opinion, I kind of feel like ROQUE is like a Sergio Aguero style forward, and I've always loved that type of striker, man. I like the type of striker that can create shots for themselves, that has that skill, that press resistance, that bit of magic and X factor in their game as well. And it does seem, based on today's reports, that maybe the club also understand things, but instead of seeing him as like a new Aguero, they see him more as like a Luis Suarez. So I think right now, let's break down the actual news now. We start with day one. And VITOR ROQUE's dad has been doing a tour of Europe, discussing and holding meetings with interested parties of the availability of his son. Recently, he has been pictured in London. He has held talks with us and Arsenal as well too. It does seem like he is set to end his European tour by travelling to Barcelona to hold conversations with them. And based on previous stories I've discussed around ROQUE, Barca unofficially are the favourites at this point in time over the signing of ROQUE. Now let's focus on reports today, and we have woken up when it comes to signing ROQUE because we see him as the replacement for Aubameyang, and of course the article mentions the point that we see him as like a Luis Suarez type of player. So right now I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions behind the story, and to do that we have to start things off by discussing Aubameyang, because it seems like the future between ROQUE and Aubameyang are intertwined at this point in time. Now recently as a fan base we saw that Aubameyang was spotted alongside his former teammates at Barcelona, celebrating alongside them. Currently, reports suggest that we are exploring the possibility of mutually terminating Aubameyang's contract at the end of the season, and it makes a lot of sense because he's earning over 250k per week. He's on a ton of money, and he clearly has no future at this club, considering the fact that we tried to sell him to Los Angeles FC in America once the January window ended. Now if Aubameyang was to leave, ideally he wants to go back to his former team at Barcelona, where he really impressed Xavi and most importantly was a very popular figure in their dressing room. And this is where things are interesting now, because as I said before, unofficially Barcelona are the favourites right now to sign ROQUE, because ideally ROQUE sees Barcelona as his number one club. But the reality is, one, Barcelona have financial issues, and number two, ROQUE would be seen as the backup to Lewandowski. And for his age right now, is that the best career move when you're not going to get guaranteed game time, because Lewandowski can easily play top quality football for the next few years? And this is where Aubameyang comes into play, because if Aubameyang is available on a free transfer in the summer periods, knowing that Barcelona only needs a backup to Lewandowski, I could see it making more sense for Barcelona to turn their attentions to signing Aubameyang, because he is a cheap and cost-effective alternative to sign over the very expensive VITOR ROQUE. And personally, I feel like if we had any hopes of beating Barcelona to ROQUE's signature, we'd have to offer a really clear first team pathway for ROQUE. Like, he can't be signed as a backup, he can't be signed to compete alongside 10 other attacking players. And I kind of feel like if we sign ROQUE, could we still sign Osimhen? Because I don't see both these guys working together. And it's getting to a point in time right now where we know that Nkunku is coming in the summer. We want to sign Felix on a permanent deal. We already have Sterling, Madueke, Mudryk, I can go on. We seem stupidly stacked in attack right now. And I want to see there's like a proper vision and plan to not only incorporate these guys, but to actually develop them so they can grow and get better over the years. For me, I think ROQUE could be the best signing to make, because he fits in the club's strategy of signing the next best thing before other clubs do so, and knowing the fact that one of his best boys in Andre Santos is signing for us and is set to join us in the summer. It just makes a lot of sense to have these guys and these bros linking up together again at Chelsea Football Club, and I kind of feel like realistically developing the next best thing is a good strategy for a club like us, because signing a striker notoriously is one of the hardest things to do in football. And I think Roque, in my opinion, I would happily accept developing him over a few years to get him ready by the time he's 21, 22 years old. So that's my thoughts and opinions. That's the first story out of the way. Let's now move on to discussing Thomas Tuchel, Bayern Munich, and his potential Chelsea raids. Now, as we all know, recently Thomas Tuchel has been announced as the new manager of Bayern Munich. I guess to start things off, let's discuss Anthony Barry, because at this point in time, he isn't actually training with the squads and the staff at Cobham anymore, because he is currently in negotiations to try and sign for Bayern Munich. At this point in time, the compensation fee that Bayern have offered to sign Barry from us has not satisfied our demands at this point in time, and currently things are still being discussed behind the scenes. Now, of course, we all know that when Tuchel was announced as Bayern's team manager, in his press conference, he very brazenly and openly said that, listen, everything's happened so quickly. I appreciate my existing team, joining me in such short notice, and ideally, I want to add Anthony Barry to come with us as well too. Now, reports said that by Tuchel's very honest and open admission that he wants Anthony Barry, that has set figures at this club. But realistically, just because we read the words upset, it doesn't mean guys at Chelsea are tearing their hair out and they're fuming and angry at Thomas Tuchel. Listen, the game's the game. This is what the game's like at the top level. I'm not crying about things, and I don't think Tuchel personally did anything wrong, because that's how you play the game. I guess it's no surprise that Barry has admitted that he wants to join up with Tuchel. He had a very good relationship alongside him. It only makes sense that he wants to continue to further his career. And I've got a bit of a little personal theory of my own. I would not be surprised that Barry, at 36 years old, one of the top coaches in European football currently, he probably has aspirations one day of becoming a manager himself. Now, we can't forget that alongside his coaching duties with us, he has had dual roles representing the Irish national team, the Belgian national team, and currently he is the assistant manager for Roberto Martinez for the Portuguese national team. In my opinion, I would not be surprised that after his coaching stint at Bayern Munich, this guy wants to become an official first team manager, and I think he's good enough to do so because this guy has high reputation in this sport. So right now, the ball's in Bayern's court. Pay up the money and sign one of the best coaches in Europe. But that isn't all though. Of course, naturally, Thomas Tuchel is going to be linked with former players at his former club, and those two players are Mason Mount and Mateo Kovacic. Now, I'm going to discuss Mount separately because I have other things to say about him, but focusing on Mateo, I understand why Tuchel will look towards him. Bayern, of course, it's a bit most likely going. Gravenberch hasn't impressed there currently as well too. Lehmer is joining them from RB Leipzig, and I kind of feel like if they were to add cover to their midfield, they'd have to sell someone, which realistically they're doing. It makes sense. Cover has like a year and a bit left in his contract. He enjoyed working under Thomas Tuchel. Tuchel has always been a long-term admirer of Cover ever since before he was even working with him at Chelsea Football Club. So it makes a lot of sense that something could happen behind the scenes, knowing the fact that Cover hasn't had any contract extension talks with the club at this point in time. Realistically though, Tuchel has only just signed for Bayern. He has to assess his squad, the talents he has, before committing to anyone in the market. But knowing the fact that so many top players are in like these precarious situations with their contracts, right now, you're going to have informal conversations and talks with potential targets for the summer window, because summer now is only a handful of months away. So it'll be interesting to see where Cover goes at this point in time. I'm not upset by the fact that Tuchel naturally wants to work with players he had a good relationship with or really rates and admires as footballers. Right now, let's end things by discussing the very insightful interview today that came out around Kai Havertz. Now, this interview was done courtesy of The Guardian, and to be honest with you, it was more like a marketing type of interview in the sense that, today, Kai Havertz announced that he has a charitable foundation called the Kai Havertz Stiftung. And listen, I don't speak German. I know I've already butchered that. You guys know that I don't get accents right and I don't pronounce words properly. Let's move on from that now. But I'm going to link the particular interview in the description so you guys can read it for yourself, because it's a long one. I can't break down the entire thing, but I'll discuss the interesting points and parts from that. But it definitely is worth reading to get like a real good insight behind Kai Havertz, the life of a professional football player, and the type of struggles these guys have that us fans don't necessarily consider or think about. Now, I've personally seen Kai Havertz as a guy that is very straightforward, very grounded, very down to earth, doesn't let like the glitz and glam affect his character. I think he's been raised to be that way, of course, and I think it's reflected behind his actions and his outspoken nature. So that's one thing I definitely respect about this guy. And as Kai himself says, from day one, I felt a special relationship with donkeys. It's kind of funny because in the interview, it does say that he was called a little donkey as his nickname growing up as well too. So you trolls, I guess you'll have fun with that one. But going back to his quotes, yeah, donkeys, it's a very calm animal. Maybe I personalize myself in them because I'm quite calm too. They chill all day, don't do much, they just want to live their lives. I love them always, and when I lost, I would go to the sanctuary. You look at the animals, you see something human in them. It was a kind of recovery, a place I felt peace, and this is what I can relate to this too, because you guys, one thing about me, I absolutely love animals. Like, I don't get me starting talking about them right now. Let's go back to the interview, but I can relate to Kai on that one. Anyway, we got some insight behind all the, this evil happening at the club at this point in time. Kai said that this is his 6th year as a professional player. He's had 7 different coaches at this point in time. And obviously, as a football player, you only focus on what's happening on the fields and on the training grounds. What happens outside doesn't really affect you and you can kind of ignore that. But this season has been a bit different. He gives an example of Jorginho where he's like, Jorginho basically is one of my boys. I've known this guy for 2.5 years. And then here's what he says exactly. Jorginho, he calls me one evening and says, I'm gone. I was like, how is this possible? Like, this is how quick things change in football. It's a human thing. You just have to accept it. It's how the game works. But you have to imagine when you've had like a connection with your teammate for so long and then just like that, he's out the door like nothing and someone else comes to replace him. It's quite hard to find that connection and build those footballing relationships overnight. Like, at the highest level. This is why timing and patience is so key, because these things just don't work instantly like that. And he gives the examples of Enzo Fernandez and Mudryk, saying the 22, they've only just arrived, they need time to settle. Like, don't expect them to play their best football or start playing like Neymar. And this is where he reflects about his own experience as a football player himself, once being the record signing for us under Frank Lampard all those years back. As Kai said, if you're playing badly, it doesn't make you the worst person on the earth. And the highs aren't real. Everything moves fast. The last few months is a good example. Everyone's upset with me. I don't score. I play rubbish. This is bad, that's bad. They have to sell me. Now I score. And everyone says I'm the best player. People love me now, but maybe in 2 weeks they hate me again. No matter how well I played, I come home and my girlfriend wants me to put the plates in the dishwasher, and that's what I mean by this guy having a very grounded type of personality, which I think definitely has taken him where he is in his career at this point in time. But he did mention that there's a bit of pressure that you face when all the spotlight's on you, especially when you yourself aren't really used to that type of attention, and that takes you some time mentally to have to get used to be your full confident best. Sometimes the words and criticism that you're reading from the press, from the fans, that can make you start to doubt yourself and you start questioning yourself, and that's how that lack of confidence can slowly creep in. So as I keep saying, in today's modern world, like, what you put out there online as a fan has even more power than ever before, because it's impossible for any human being in the modern world to not be connected to the internet. Like, if you support these guys, you're going to boost them even more than you ever could. And that's why the incessant criticism and negativity, sometimes after so many years too covering it, it does get a bit tiring and boring. But as I said, there's even more things to discuss in this interview. I recommend you guys read this and digest this for yourself, because it's definitely worth the time. And my friends, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Boom. Thank you for watching. Of course, help support the channel, sign up to ExpressVPN and protect yourself on this dirty internet, yeah? And on that note, I'm NiniFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.